detonated the attempted his humanity and selflessness, and for his outstanding actions in coming to the aid of and in attempting life-saving first aid on an injured person after a significant car accident. His actions bring credit to himself and to the city. Mr. Wilson would come up. And the final member, but equally deserving of the trio, is Ms. Rebecca Litke. Ms. Rebecca Litke was at work in the area of Canada Way and Beta Avenue when she was informed of the serious car collision which had happened in front of the business she worked in. Ms. Litke, a trained first aid attendant as well, quickly went to go see if she could be of assistance. Upon arriving on the scene, she began assisting where she could several of the other injured parties. However, she quickly realized the most critically injured person was the pedestrian and went to help her co-worker who was attempting cardiopulmonary resuscitation on the young woman. Upon reaching the victim, Ms. Litke assisted in chest compression on the pedestrian until further medical assistance could arrive. Like the others, Ms. Litke did not hesitate to put her medical training into practice and come to the aid of the injured woman. Ms. Litke, come forward. Very emotional, and tears came to her eyes again on the memory of the accident. So to conclude, Your Worship, I will add some remarks adding that despite the tragic outcome of the accident, prompt actions on the part of Mr. Wilson, Mr. Rasmussen, and Ms. Litke are to be commended. Their quick thinking, humanitarian efforts, and selflessness at the scene in attempting life-saving CPR is a credit to themselves, their families, and their communities. On behalf of the Public Safety Committee of Burnaby City Council and of all Burnaby citizens, I personally want to tell these three individuals that we are very proud of them and that we want to recognize and thank them for having displayed a high degree of responsible and meritorious behavior and having done all that was in their power to come to the aid of a seriously injured person and attempting to save their life. Thank you very much.
All right, sure. I want to add my personal appreciation for the tremendous and selfless effort that you provided to try to help this citizen in distress. I know that you join me and everyone in Burnaby in wishing the result would have been different, but it doesn't change the courage and the citizenship that you showed on that night. This is not an award that we give out very frequently at the City of Burnaby. In fact, it's a very special award that recognizes behavior by our citizens that goes above and beyond the call of duty. And this was an incident in which each of you put aside your own personal needs in order to ensure that you were able to provide this assistance to someone who was in a tragic situation. So we do want to, on behalf of the citizens of our city, thank you very much. And you truly are great examples of the kind of citizens that make up our city and Metro Vancouver. So thank you very much for being with us tonight. And you're welcome to stay for the rest of the council meeting, or you may choose to leave over the next little while without any consequences. We won't take the award back. All right. Isn't that nice, Council, when we get a chance to recognize people like this who are such an outstanding example? And now we're moving on to proclamations, and I have the honor of reading the first proclamation from the Office of the Mayor of the City of Burnaby, Black History Month. Whereas the black community in North America has designated February as Black History Month, and whereas it is a time when peoples of African origin affirm their contribution to the development of the local, national, and global communities, and assess their current place within those communities. And whereas in celebrating Black History Month, the local black community affirms its place within the Canadian mosaic by presenting throughout the month of February a series of events that are designed to raise the level of public awareness of the multiplicity of cultures that make up the local black community and the contributions that black people have made and continue to make to the development of our country. And whereas the objective of Black History Month is to promote an understanding of multiculturalism and acceptance of racial diversity, now therefore I, Derek R. Corrigan, Mayor of Burnaby, do hereby proclaim the month of February 2016 as Black History Month in the City of Burnaby. And the next proclamation is to be read by Councillor Johnson.
Your Worship, this is regarding Heritage Week. Whereas British Columbia will be celebrating Heritage Week 2016 with the theme of Distinctive Destinations, Experience Historic Places, in honor of our historic places that create memorable experiences and provide opportunities to learn more about the history and evolution of our community. And whereas cultural tourism provides unique and authentic visitor experiences, and Burnaby's historic places play a central role in these experiences, and whereas heritage is an important part of our life in our city and is a great source of community pride, and whereas it is believed that Burnaby citizens would wish to celebrate our heritage by observing Heritage Week and celebrating and experiencing our historic places. Therefore, yourself, Mayor Derek Corrigan, does hereby proclaim the week of February 15th to 21st, 2016, that's Heritage Week in the City of Burnaby.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. And the last proclamation is read by Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Worship. My proclamation is on behalf of the Mayor of the City of Burnaby, Chamber of Commerce Week. And whereas a strong community business is a key driver of our local economic prosperity, and whereas a strong local business community creates jobs and opportunities for residents of Burnaby and supports community growth, and whereas the Burnaby Board of Trade is a business organization dedicated to strengthening Burnaby's business community and helping our city to thrive, and whereas every year members of the Burnaby Board of Trade dedicate countless volunteer hours in service to our local businesses and community, now therefore I, Derek R. Corrigan, Mayor of Burnaby, do hereby proclaim February 15th to 19th, 2016 as Chamber of Commerce Week in the City of Burnaby. And Your Worship, Mr. Paul Holden is here from the Chamber to accept this tonight.
That's right. Is Mr. Paul Holden, the CEO of the Burnaby Board of Trade, is here for Chamber of Commerce Week. And I think this was just this month that they've announced that they've joined the BC Chamber of Commerce, or rejoined the BC Chamber of Commerce, and that was an auspicious announcement made in conjunction with the BC Chamber of Commerce. So it's perfect that he's here today for this proclamation. And Councillor Jordan, do you want to give him the copy of the proclamation? All right, a motion to adopt the minutes of the open council meeting held on February the 1st, 2015. It's been moved and seconded. 2016, sorry. It's been moved, seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. They can still trick me. A motion to resolve into a committee of the whole. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. First report is from the Community Heritage Commission. Councillor Jordan, you're the chair.
Thank you, Worship. Before I get to the report, I just want to follow along from the proclamation that Councillor Johnson just read, because this being Heritage Month or Heritage Week throughout the province, Heritage BC takes the opportunity of this week to present awards, and I'm pleased to inform Council that the Burnaby Community Heritage Commission has been advised that the Heritage Burnaby website upgrade project has received a Heritage BC award at the recognition level. This award is the Heritage Education and Awareness category.
I'm not sure what you said.
Siri, listen.
Sorry.
The website was first launched in 2008 as an initiative of the Commission and City Council to provide an online finding aid of the city's rich heritage collection. The upgrade to the Heritage Burnaby website makes it easier than ever to access City Council records, community records, bylaws, heritage landmarks, oral histories, digitized film footage, and digitized publications, and more. The new site's sophisticated one-search function and mobile-friendly design enable students, teachers, researchers, city staff, and members of the public to search many city repositories of information that are held in the archives, the museum, and the Burnaby Heritage Planning Program. And so the award will be accepted on behalf of the city's archivist at the Heritage Awards evening, February 18th this week in Vancouver. So again, another good news story and another plaque.
Congratulations to all involved in the upgrade. That again, know that we are leading in regard. That's from places outside of Burnaby.
We had the presentation, from our staff and IT staff a month or two ago about the new website, and I think that was well received as well for the public to tweak them to start looking up more information there. But to the business at hand, this report has to do with the heritage alteration permit for its separately mansion Fair Acres and the deck restoration at the Burnaby Art Gallery at Deer Lake Avenue. And the recommendation is that Council approve the issuance of a heritage alteration permit for the separately mansion as outlined in the report. And I so move. And basically, the mansion, the art gallery, is a protected heritage building in the city, and it does need some significant repairs to the deck area, the upper deck. And as our staff informed through this report, we don't treat ourselves any differently than we would any other heritage building in the city, and we have to get Council's permission to do the work on the building. So even though it's our building, we still have to go through all the legalized processes we would as as if it was any other heritage-protected building within our city. So that's the reason for the report and the recommendations.
You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
And then the next report, Your Worship, is the City of Burnaby Archives Annual Report for 2015, and the recommendation is that the report be received for information. And we have a lot of reports on the agenda tonight, Your Worship, but this is just a brief report that went through our commission last week and outlined the scope of work for the archives over the last year and the various projects that have been undertaken, including the website upgrade, which we spoke to, and the oral history project, part 2, which is currently in progress, and we hope to have finished this year. Some of the other public activities of the archives and an outline of the storage of materials and the things that is their basis of their work. And then the report references the 2016 work schedule, which includes completing the oral history project as well as other aspects of the committee's work, the commission's work. So.
Question's been called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Moving on to the Environment Committee, Councillor Kang.
Thank you, Worship. The report is for the 2016 Environment Week program, and the 4 recommendations are that Council approve the 2016 Environment Week program, that Council approve the presentation of environmental awards and stars at the regular Council meeting on May 16, 2016, that Council approve the expenditure of up to $3,000 from the Board's Committee and Commission's operating budget for promoting and advertising the city-sponsored Garage Sale Day event. And that the 4th one, that Council approve an expenditure of up to $5,800 from the Board's Committee and Commission's operating budget for promoting and advertising Environment Week.
Second the recommendation.
Your Worship, the city's Burnaby Environment Week program promotes awareness and stewardship of the environmental sustainability of our natural and built environment through a range of environmentally themed public events and activities. And it is mainly coordinated by the city, and it offers an opportunity for Burnaby residents, local community groups and businesses, QP Local 23 and other government agencies to come together to recognize and celebrate our community and environment. And this is one of my favorite events of the whole year with the City of Burnaby. What is different about this year's Environment Week is that it's not actually just 1 week, but it is proposed to be for 2 weeks. And it will start May the 28th to Sunday, June the 12th. And this will coincide with Canadian Environment Week and World Environment Day on June 15th. And the reason why we propose this is because in between these 2 weekends, we have the Hats Off Day in between as a car-free day in the City of Burnaby as organized by the Heights Merchants. Another thing that is noteworthy is that this year's festival will be our 20th anniversary of the Environment Week and the Environmental Awards program. And something different that we'll be doing this year that I'm very excited about is to really highlight the program and to bring the awards winner to Council and to have them being recognized by Council, just like today's community heroes as well. Some of the programs that we have for Environment Week, some of the core programs that we have are so some of our core elements. One of them is the Burnaby Environment Festival, which happens on May 28th. What has happened in previous years is that we have multiple big festivals that happen on the same day, and that's why we have decided to expand this to 2 weeks. In that Environment Festival, citywide garage sale, Eco Center open house, Hats Off Day, they all occur on the same day. So this year we've expanded the days. So we have the Environment Festival, we have our sponsored city garage sale, Bird by Year workshop, where we are going out to where the public could sign up for programs that we actually go listening for bird calls. And wonderful trips such as Deer Lake guided canoe trips that families could really enjoy their family times and learn about nature. As well, there's an open house at the Burnaby Eco Center on June the 11th. And something that's always fun is to visit car trunk sales. And family-friendly events would be like kids swamp meet and a great blue heron colony tour. Now, what we have at City Hall right now is a really beautiful eco sculpture of our heron colony. So I would invite people to come and just take a look at the artwork that we have at City Hall. Something else that we have is also the Mandarin language nature tour. So we're trying to make this very friendly to people who may have language as a barrier. And Upper Still Creek Watershed water photography workshops for those who love photography. As well, these are all our partners. So we have the Jim Lorimer Park, Uncover Your Creeks, and Burnaby Lake Park Association, which will spearhead Weed Buster events. And something new that we're looking forward for this year is Burnaby Food First, and they are going to be holding a Burnaby Food Forum in the city of Burnaby. So we're looking forward to all these wonderful new events and wonderful new changes. And if this works out well, we're looking forward to many more years of 2 weeks Environment Week. Thank you, Worship.
You know, I had Councillor Johnson as the chair of this committee for many, many years, and it stayed Environment Week. New chair, and it's Environment 2 weeks. I'm going to keep you there for a while because the next chair will make it Environment Month. So, everybody who enjoys Environment Week now has twice as much to be able to appreciate. So your favorite week of the year has now become 2.
Thank you.
You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Next report, also from the Environment Committee.
Thank you, Worship. This is a report from the Director of Finance on sustainable purchasing initiatives from the Green Team. And the recommendation is that the Environment Committee requests Council to authorize the City Green Team to proceed with the proposed 2016 work plan initiative. Your Worship, in 2008, Council adopted a sustainable purchasing guideline to help ensure that city purchasing decisions include consideration of factors that would support the city in reducing environmental impact, encouraging social improvement, and leveraging fiscal responsibility. To date, the city's Green Team efforts in assisting the progress of sustainable purchasing practices beyond our current practices are remarkable and noteworthy. There are 4 areas I would like to highlight today, and we are going on with our 2016 plan. One is communication, education, and awareness. So in lieu of paper copies, the Green Team uses our SAP portal to distribute and store all green messages and monthly highlight bulletins and staff workshops. So these are all paperless. The second activity is Workplace Conservation Awareness Campaign, and this is one of my favorites. So the Teens Energy Campaign focuses on staff's action to reduce energy consumption and change behaviors through engaging fun activities such as Earth Hours. So they would tweet on what they're doing or not doing on Earth Hours and sharing their ideas with others. Test Your Energy Knowledge Trivia Game, and Stay Bright by Daylight campaign, where staff were asked to work by natural daylight. The third action that is worthy of highlighting is the printing equipment assessment. The Green Team, in collaboration with our IT staff and user department, continue the efforts to consolidate the volume of printing to the city's multi-function printing devices. Using results from the 2009 baseline numbers, our city now has 35% less printing devices, 24 less volumes of prints, 51% less single-function devices, and 23 more volume allocated to multi-function devices such as copiers, scanners, and fax. So either departments are sharing one, or we're just walking out to different offices and having multiple staff using one device. And lastly, one that I am very proud of is the Food Recovery Program. And I'm a big advocate of scrap food, but this is not putting food into a scrap bin, but actually recovering it and sharing it. This program was started through our participation in the Greater Vancouver Food Bank Society's Community Angels Food Runners program. And we donate nourishing food to local agencies, food that would otherwise have gone to waste. So rather than bring everything else onto the table all at once, what we do is we ration the portions. As soon as our patrons have used up the portions, then we would continue to serve, and those that are not served on the tables are then able to be redonated. So we donate nourishing food to local agencies, and in 2015 we estimate that more than 200 pounds of food were recovered and donated to local meal providing agencies. So this year the Food Division Service, the Food Service Division, working with Green Team, are looking forward to expanding the program to include more city locations to better assist more local groups. The Environment Committee and staff are very excited about the current programs and initiatives with the Green Team, and would continue to work hard to ensure that the City of Burnaby remains at the forefront of a sustainable approach in all of our initiatives. The committee respectfully requests that Council to authorize the City Green Team to proceed with the proposed 2016 work plan initiatives in communication and education, workplace conservation awareness, printing equipment assessment, and the food recovery program. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. Councillor Calandino.
Thank you, Your Worship. And first of all, I just want to say that the Green Team is doing a phenomenal job in reducing energy usage and conservation of material for us. And I'm not sure who all the members of the committee are, but I know the person that makes the presentation to us, Giselle Caron, and she must have a good wit to keep everybody in order, because they are obviously getting very good success in what they're doing. But one of the items that, when she made the presentation, attracted me is some of the little things they do to keep people interested in conservation and energy saving. For example, things like the 12 Days of Christmas campaign, which sounds like, hey, we sing a song every day, but in reality what they do, I think they send out a message or a flyer to staff each single day to give them a tip on how they can save energy or how they conserve. And I think that's a good way of keeping the interest going, because every day is something different that they have to take part in. The other one is the Stay Bright by Daylight, which I think they can do that more in the summer than into winter. But the idea is when the workers come in the morning, don't turn off the light, just work by the natural light you have, which when I was a kid, we didn't have electricity that frequently, and most of the time I had to do my homework by daylight. And you know, it strengthens your eyesight. So it's beneficial not only in seeing things, but in strengthening people's eyesight as well. I think those are just two little things that maintain this program interest in conservation and saving energy. So just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you, Councillor. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Financial Management Committee, Councillor Johnson.
First item is regarding Station 1 tarmac resurfacing funding request, and I would move the recommendations.
Second.
Your Worship, this report is authorizing $262,500 inclusive of GST to replace the tarmac at Fire Hall number 1. I think it's a wise use of cash in that the weight of the fire trucks, I'm sure, pretty beats up the pavement pretty fiercely. The report before us is to resurface that.
Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
And next, Your Worship, is the 2016 Information Technology Infrastructure Capital Program. And the recommendations are that Council approve the capital expenditure of $4,982,800 for computer equipment replacements, betterments, and infrastructure acquisitions as outlined in the report, and that Council authorize staff to bring down a capital reserve bylaw in the amount of $5,215,700 inclusive of taxes to finance the 2016 IT infrastructure program. Your Worship, this report is for... sorry, I moved it, didn't I? The report that's before us is recommending replacement of key components in our computer system, betterments, a few upgrades, basically the day-to-day operation of the department. This does not include specific money for any specific software package, but is for the general operation of the city's computer systems.
Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
Next, Your Worship, is the 2015 City Investment Year-End Report, and I would move the report be received for information purposes.
Second.
Your Worship, the report that's before us updates Council and the public on the state of Burnaby's investment portfolio. We had another good year, earning, where is it here? 41.5 million, or 3.91% on our investments. That compares with 42.6 million the previous year, or 4.9%. In an era where interest rates are ever declining and stock markets are insecure, not very secure at the moment, this is a pretty good return for the city's investments. The report outlines the state of the city's reserves, which as of December 31st totaled $923,955,000. Now that, Your Worship, is a large figure, a lot of money, but that money is basically committed to the security of the city. It covers amounts for road repaving, for building replacement, for security. We self-insure for fire. It's basically the security of the city on a long-term basis. You'll hear comments from people that 923 million is a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but in relation to the size of the city of Burnaby, it's not that large. When you consider what it is securing and what it's reserved for, it's for the future of the city. It's for a lot of it is already earmarked in the short term. We have things like road replacement, rec centers, various capital projects that the city has in its 5-year plan. A lot of that money is allocated out of that 923 million. The report also indicates briefly how the city invests its money. We are pretty conservative in how we invest the public's funds. We tend to have our money in Canadian banks and credit unions in British Columbia, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. Our staff spend a lot of time researching both security and positive returns, and as is obvious by the return rate that we have received over the last couple of years, they do a good job of keeping the public's money safe and invested wisely.
Thank you. Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to add a couple of things, Your Worship. First of all, as Councillor Johnson had stated, we had a cumulative return of 3.91% last year, Your Worship. Kudos to the staff who are constantly looking for the best interest of the city. That's a pretty good return, because much of our savings are generally quite a bit of that in the short-term investment. To get that kind of a return goes to show that a lot of hard work and diligent work is being done with staff. So all that money that comes back to as a investment return to us, Your Worship, goes to towards the reserves. Reserves are for our assets, that this money that's currently earmarked to replace reserves in the longer term. So everything is generally covered for these reserves. So most of these funds, majority of this fund, by vast majority of the funds, I should say, are earmarked to replace our assets as they age. Your Worship, one of the big things that I think the public probably doesn't realize and may need to mention is that having the status of a debt-free city for over a decade has helped us create facilities without having to borrow money. Most of the cities, towns are always looking to create infrastructure by borrowing money, Your Worship, and that interest goes out the window to other lending institutions. In our case, our interest comes back to us and which adds to the reserves that we have. So that's a prudent management, money management that the staff and the council has done, has helped us create a position which is a very favorable position, Your Worship, and that helps our businesses, that helps the citizens who come to live in the city, knowing that the city is well managed in terms of its financial position, Your Worship, and creating activity throughout even good times and bad times. When the construction slowed down somewhere else, city was able to take advantage of that slow growth someplace else and invest those funds into creating our facilities. That's this is a position, I'm sure it's the envy of cities and towns around the country to have it, but it doesn't come without discipline. Discipline is about to making sure that you continue to fund your operational money out of the money that you collect, and the other ones are just saved for future generation, to make sure that when they have the need for having a new a rink, a new pool, a new playground, or just a new further infrastructure, that's all covered. It's not dependent on having to raise funds, which we see time and again. A lot of our communities do have to do that, and when that doesn't come about, and you're left without those facilities. So this is a great position to be in, and I believe this hasn't happened because this council, something that has been set for decades into motion, and the discipline that the staff and the council have shown collectively has got this position for us. It saves us money, particularly when we come to paying interest, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Dhaliwal, and I think that this is certainly a credit to our staff, Mr. Moncoeur, our CEO, to our finance directors, a succession of finance directors, most lately Denise Jorgensen. But it's been a pattern over the course of nearly 3 decades that we have been guarding our money carefully, ensuring that we're prudent in the way that we manage our money, and we also have utilized it to leverage significant assets for the city. We are one of the few cities anywhere in Canada that's meeting the public sector accounting standards, the requirement that we're able to show that we can replace our infrastructure in the future. Most cities depend on borrowing, and there's an item on their agenda to pay interest to banks. We instead are borrowing internally and paying interest back to ourselves, and then using that interest to be able to leverage greater improvements for our city and to reduce our tax rates, to ensure that we are keeping our tax rates modest while providing the best services of any city in the region, certainly the best services probably of any city in the province. The other thing that's important to remember about the reserves is that, as you've said, much of it is earmarked for future expenditures, and we don't have access to that money. In fact, a relatively small portion of the money is discretionary, and that discretionary money is often used for us to go out and buy land to be able to protect future development. And one of the ways we've built those reserves is by going out, purchasing land, holding it over an extended period of time, and then being prepared to sell that land when the kind of development that we think is appropriate is ready to occur. That again has been a way in which we built those reserves as a result of very studious purchases of land over a long period of time, and that's been a great asset provided by our planning department, who've been very aggressive in ensuring that Burnaby has a large land bank. We are in a financial position that is envied right across the country. The Municipal Finance Authority, when they go away to get their credit rating from organizations like Standard & Poor's, Burnaby's their poster child. We're on the front of their papers to be able to show what level of sophisticated financial management occurs in British Columbia. And our good financial management helps ensure that every small town and village gets the same borrowing rates that we would get if we went to the bank. Those are real accomplishments and something for our city and our staff to be very, very proud of. And also for council, who keep on ensuring that we are building our reserves, ensuring our reserves are available, but also that we're able to fulfill the plans. When we tell people that we're going to build a rec center or we're going to build a skating rink or a swimming pool, we're able to do it with the funds that we have available to us. It's not a question of waiting for someone else to make a decision. We have the ability to make that decision now. And it has made Burnaby, I think, one of the cities that's been able to accommodate growth more efficiently than most cities in Canada. And that's another accomplishment that has, I think, made Burnaby such a well-run city. It is a large amount of money, you're absolutely right, but I can tell you that if you started using it to reduce taxes, if you started taking part of those reserves out and you reduce taxes, the simple analogy is that would go on for a few years, and then the reserves would be gone, the discretionary reserves would be gone, and with nothing to fill the blank, you'd be looking at an increase in your taxes that was significantly higher than any past increase had been. So it's a mug's game to be using your savings to go out and try to reduce your expenses, because eventually your savings will be gone and your expenses will have a bigger hole than they had in the beginning. So we're doing the right thing with this money by investing it and making sure that it grows, and at the same time having the capacity to take on any project necessary in our city without having to go to the banks for money. So thank you very much, Councillor Johnson, to your committee, and thank you again to the staff for their very careful management of our finances.
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried.
And the last one, Your Worship, from the Financial Management Committee regarding BC Business Special Promotional Feature. I would move that Council approve the city participation in BC Business Promotional Feature advertisement, and that Council approve an expenditure of $5,000 from gaming interest funds to finance the advertisement. Your Worship, this is a special edition of BC Business that we would propose to work with the Board of Trade. It would be a joint edition featuring the City of Burnaby and the Burnaby Board of Trade. I think the committee thought this was a good economic development device for the city, and we hope that Council supports it.
Thank you. You ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. The next report is from the Public Safety Committee. Councillor Calandino.
Your Worship, there's nothing to add there. That was a report that would have asked the Council to approve the award we gave. It should have come last week, but since it was a holiday last week, it was delayed for 1 week.
This is, you're moving it to receive it for information?
Move to receive whatever the recommendation is.
Seconded. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Social Planning Committee. Councillor Balco.
Your Worship, on behalf of the committee, I would move the recommendation. And Your Worship, this is a Council approve the proposed Burnaby Access Advisory Committee 2016 work plan as outlined in section 3.0 of this report. And very briefly, this is an annual report that comes to Council, Your Worship. The Burnaby Access Advisory Committee was established in 1988. That goes back quite a while, 28 years ago, and it's a subcommittee of the social planning. And basically, this is a committee that gives advice to staff that then follows through in regards to accessibility for folks with disabilities within our community. And I won't go through them all, but on 3.0, Council can see the proposed 2016 work plan, 10 various items.
Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Next report, Social Planning Committee, Councillor Balco.
Thank you, Your Worship, and this is the Child Care Resources Group update for 2016, and on behalf of the committee, I would move the two recommendations.
Second.
And again, Your Worship, this is an annual report that comes to Council with the work plan for the Child Care Resources Group for 2016. And very briefly, the Child Care Resources Group was established, another long one, 26 years ago in 1990 as a subcommittee of the Social Planning Committee. And within the report, I won't go through them all. Appendix I, actually, for Council and staff on page 71, basically lists the work plan for this year.
Right, you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item L, Social Planning Committee, again, Councillor Balco.
Again, thank you, Your Worship. This is in regards to Dementia-Friendly Community Action Plan. On behalf of the committee, I would move the 2 recommendations. And, and again, briefly, Your Worship, this is a report dating back to November 9th of last year, and Council authorized staff to submit an application to the UBCM in regards to age-friendly community planning projects in regards to develop dementia-friendly community action plan. An interesting statistic here on item 2.0. I won't go through everything that's going on here, but as it says, as our population ages, the number of people affected by dementia will continue to grow. And I found this interesting, research indicating that dementia affects about 1.6% of the general population, and of those folks, 60% of them are still in the community. They're not within any facilities or that. So this basically is a grant that Council has taken on in order to start planning for the number of folks in our community with dementia, and we'll give staff, planning staff with Parks Rec, Citizen Support Services, Burnaby Public Library, and staff from Fraser Health and the Alzheimer's Society of BC will get together and start making recommendations to staff as to how we can fulfill the objectives of this plan.
Thank you, and Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thanks once again to the staff to securing this $20,000 grant through UBCM, Your Worship. I believe it's a great opportunity for us to create some awareness on behalf of the Council and about the issue of dementia, Your Worship. As the report outlines, as the population grows in that sector, beyond 60, 65, more seniors are going to be living in our communities right across the country. What I'm hoping, Your Worship, out of this one is not as much what the city is about to deliver in services, Your Worship, but rather a plan which would have advocacy on behalf of dementia, Your Worship. I think one of the things we want to do is approach the federal government, for example, to have a strategy, which is a national strategy to combat dementia and provide support, Your Worship. Because this is something which perhaps right across the country people need to create communities which are going to be accommodating for folks to age at a place where they have lived. And that is something the country needs to be very prepared about. The old model of funding health on per capita basis probably need to be adjusted, Your Worship, to see where the seniors are living. If the seniors happen to be in British Columbia, which seems to be the trend across the country, because most of them want to move to a more temperate climate, this needs to be adjusted how the money is sent across the provinces and territories to where the seniors are. But that can only happen, Your Worship, if there's a strategy about how to engage communities, how to engage provincial and federal government in terms of combat or getting prepared for most likely what they call as probably up to 25% of Canada's population over the next 25 years going to be seniors. So it's a very important issue. One of the things I'm hoping of the workshop would be that advocacy that we can do to the other 2 governments, Your Worship. I hope that's covered in the report.
Thank you, and I think it is. I think it's a key point is that educating staff and our community about the issues surrounding dementia and creating advocates in our community that are going to be prepared to deal with that issue. It is, after all, a health issue and properly within the purview of the federal and provincial government as co-funders of health. But it doesn't mean that we can't, as a city, look at ways that we can help and certainly that we can promote more effective ways to deal with the dementia issue. And I think you're right, it's going to grow. Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think it's critical at this stage of history that we are looking at something like this, because right now we know there's more seniors today than there is teenagers. And then over the next 25 years, they're expecting anywhere up to 30% increase in that. So it's going to be a situation where we're going to need more and more resources for this. But I think as a city, our responsibility is, if we have a look at this report, I relate back when I was on the Social Issues Committee, and we got 2 grants from UBCM, and it was for walkable communities and that. And it pointed out the 2 areas we were in, what we could have done and what we should be doing in the future. And I think that's what I'm hoping will come out of this, is it'll show us how to plan our city and what we do in the future with this in mind. It'll make it easier for people with dementia, the same as with seniors for the walkability, make it easier for the seniors to get around in their own community and stay in their own house. So I don't see this as where we are going to be funding anything on this for this problem, but more so to identify what it is and what can we do as a city that we change the way we do business in the future to make this more accommodating for the seniors that have this dreadful disease. Thank you.
Councillor Calandino.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. The item came up at the discussion of the Voice of Burnaby Seniors, and I sit at the table on behalf of Council, and there was a lot of interest among that group in bringing forward this application for funding and to participate actively in the process of developing this plan for the city. And as Councillor McDonnell said, it's not necessarily developing a plan to make the city responsible for creating infrastructure, but again, perhaps in the plan, planning staff can include markers that makes it easier for people with beginning stages of dementia, because when it's advanced dementia, there's no marker that will do much good for seniors, because they may not remember, may not know the meaning of those markers at an advanced stage. But for initial stage of dementia, and that problem is there at that time, because when it's in the initial stages, a lot of people that have that condition don't want to accept it because it's traumatic. They think they're still normal, but yet the memory loss is there, and reorienting themselves around the city is a serious problem. And we know from our police force and firefighters and the search and rescue teams that frequently they're called out there to find a lost person suffering of dementia, not necessarily advanced stages of dementia.
With that, are you ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Moving on to the City Manager's report. Item 1. This is to provide staff comments and suggestions to Minister of State Emergency Preparedness in response to their document, Prepared and Resilient, a discussion paper on the legislative framework for emergency management in British Columbia. Councillor Dhaliwal.
Thank you, Your Worship. I believe the report covers it, but I wanted to highlight one of the discussion, which is item discussion 6, ministerial authority to direct emergency planning. Your Worship, I think the report is pretty clear that what's the possible risks here if in this legislation that this isn't used as a form of strict downloading, etc., and directing local governments to do things that are generally beyond the control of local governments or the ability to do so. So I believe one of the things that need to be strongly stressed, which the report is perhaps even highlighted a little bit more, that this is something that we need to really have more consultation. What does this mean when the provincial government is going to be able to override what the city local governments have come forward with? So it is an important issue, Your Worship. I am glad to see that government is reviewing that emergency legislation, emergency response legislation, but it needs to be with the expectation that the province and the federal government have the resources really to direct at a major disaster response to the emergencies. The cities are to be prepared in terms of really provisioning much of that, but the governments have a role to play. So I think this has a direct bearing on how the government looks after that. If this is turned out to be just simply, hey, we made the legislation, now it is going to bear the burden of this, might be something that we need to talk about a little bit more, Your Worship.
Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wonder, through you to Councillor Dollywall or staff, so is there a group or body that's also like coordinating responses from cities on this? Is the UBCM looking and sort of adding a little more muscle behind any concerns that cities have, or is this just each city is on their own and responding? Each city's on their own and responding. I'm getting a nod from staff over there. So I wonder if we should copy this report to the UBCM, and just so that they're aware that our staff have expressed some concerns, and I don't know what they do with it, but...
Yeah, I think that would be an appropriate amendment, just to make sure they're in the loop in regard to the report that we're filing.
Second.
I don't know of any coordinated response, so I think that would be helpful to copy it, because some cities will clearly spend more time on it than others.
Yeah, and they may not have the resources to even know whether they should respond, right? So if there's some, technical issues, as our staff have indicated that, we should be concerned about, then somebody else should be concerned too. I move an amendment that we copy UBCM.
Been seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. And I'm glad staff pointed out the ministerial authority to direct emergency planning. I can tell you at the regional level, there has been a significant effort on the part of the province to download onto regional government the issues surrounding emergency planning. And it's ironic because Metro Vancouver has more than half the population of British Columbia, and for some reason the province feels that they shouldn't be in charge of emergencies for half the province, which is of great concern. The chairman of Metro Vancouver is not a mayor, doesn't have the power to declare a state of emergency, and in fact all of the levers and buttons that are involved in being able to act on an emergency in the Lower Mainland are with the minister, with the provincial government. And if there was a disaster, all of us are going to be occupied in our own cities following our own emergency plans, and we are going to be looking after our local residents and our neighboring municipalities if we can. But ultimately, the provincial government has to draw resources from across the province and maybe from across the nation to be able to help. So if you imagine an earthquake, a serious earthquake in our area, we're going to be fully occupied as cities in dealing with the problems within our own communities. The province has to be in a position to be able to call on resources to help us from wherever they're available to ensure that we're able to cope with the incident. So it's very, very important that the province have an active role and it has a robust staff that are available to deal with these issues. And I think the real concern that I've seen over the last while is that there isn't the level of planning expertise, nor is there the level of staffing at the provincial government to give us a real sense of security. And as a result, there's this tendency on the part of the provincial government to look, as usual, at downloading responsibility onto local government or regional government. I think it's critical that we have an effective plan at the provincial level that is supporting the local plans that all of us are developing in our own communities. And I know in the city of Burnaby we have a very effective emergency plan. We've been working on it for many years, and we pay great attention to our ability to respond to emergencies. We have done tabletops to ensure that we are prepared. We continue, when we have any kind of incident, we use it as an opportunity to test our resources. And I believe that we will act as effectively as any municipality could if there is a significant emergency. But I don't appreciate, and I don't think it helps, that the province is looking to rewrite our emergency plans or to be able to tell us what we should do in an emergency, when really they should be focusing on provincial actions and the capacity that they have to provide assistance. All right. You ready for the question? All those in favor? Oh, okay. On the motion as amended,
Second.
All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Thank you very much. Item 2. This is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the Edmonds Splash Park. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 3. This is to obtain council approval to award a contract for the supply and delivery of refuse and recycling trucks. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, carried. Item 4. This is to obtain council approval for a contract amendment for flagging and traffic control services. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Item 5. This is to obtain council approval to increase the existing contract with DNS Bulldozing Limited for the transport and disposal of surplus excavated materials. Questions called. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Hats Off Day Parade. This is approval, and it's June the 4th, Saturday, June the 4th, 2016. Ready for the question? All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Motion the committee rise and report. Moved and seconded. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Motion that the report of the committee be adopted. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Bylaws. Councillor Jordan.
Thank you, sir. This is for first, second, and third reading. I move that Burnaby Capital Works Bylaws 13572 and 13573 be now introduced and read 3 times.
Second the motion.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
For third reading, reconsideration, and final adoption, I move that Burnaby zoning bylaw 13555 and 13558 be now read a third time, reconsidered, finally adopted, signed by the mayor and clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
Second the motion.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, opposed, carried.
And for reconsideration and final adoption, I move that Burnaby zoning bylaw 13455, Capital Works bylaw 13567, Recreation fees bylaw 13571 be now reconsidered, finally adopted, signed by the mayor and the clerk, and the corporate seal affixed thereto.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing none. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. All right. Is there any new business? Councillor Balco.
Yeah, just very briefly, I wasn't going to speak on this, but I see this letter in the from Henry Braun, the mayor of Abbotsford, in regard to the downloading of DNA costs. And I noticed that in their executive committee report that the extra cost to Abbotsford will be $86,000. Do we have an idea what the cost to the city of Burnaby will be? If it's $86,000 for Abbotsford, what's our projected increase in unexpected costs in regards to this? The reason I raise that is because I had occasion, we received a copy from the Auditor General for Municipalities today in regards to the audit of the City of Williams Lake, and I had occasion to quickly look over it. It's an interesting report, but what I noticed in there, speaking of downloading, what I noticed in the Williams Lake report is a complete absence of any projection in regards to the new E-Division headquarters out in Surrey, which I think everyone knows is a huge figure. But apparently, between the federal government, the province, and the RCMP, we don't, or maybe I'm mistaken, but do we have an estimate of what the cost will be to us in regards to that building, if there will be any, and what's happening with those negotiations?
They are continuing. The province of British Columbia has taken a very strong position in regard to the estimates provided by the federal government on the cost to the province for the space and to us as individual municipalities. There's a significant disparity between their estimates in regard to those costs. The province looking at comparable rental properties that they could obtain in the Lower Mainland, against the desire on the part of the federal government to have us pay for the capital expenditures in the 3P partnership that were made. So this is not a happy situation. We continue to have a potential liability. We are putting away monies for that as we move through, but it could end up being a significant additional expenditure. All too often, we're finding that the federal government is acting unilaterally in regard to these issues. The provincial government is reacting, but not very effectively, and the consequences are visited on local government as a result, and we're the ones who keep ending up with additional costs being passed on through the RCMP to us, none of which is our local RCMP's fault, is that they are simply in the middle of disputes that are going on between the federal and provincial government, and since we're a junior partner through the provincial government, we're often the last ones who are having any input.
I think I just would like to add, as a reminder to this, that back in the day when we were negotiating the new RC, or the renewal of the RCMP contract, the person that the UBCM appointed to oversee that was the Mayor of Langley at the time, Peter Fassbender. So hold on to your wallet, Mr. Mayor. I know that you're involved with various TransLink matters, and I think the minister responsible now for TransLink is the same Peter Fassbender. So if his ability to negotiate that contract 5 years ago is what we're going to see with TransLink, I think we're not going to be happy with the end result.
Well, my opinion is Peter Fassbender was working for the provincial government even when he was representing us, so. That's right. All those in favor, opposed, and carried. Thank you very much.